Hello, dear students. In last lecture, we have started with the concept of the important entity in operating system, that is a process. I already have shared with you that there are two important entities in an operating system. One is a process, means is what to do, which function is to do, what task is to do, that is a process. Okay. And the second one is a file. File means whatever the process is doing, the information about the process, the data about the process, where to keep that information, that we call it as a file. Okay. For example, consider that you are writing a letter. Okay. So you are writing a letter. So writing of letter is nothing but it is a task. So it is a process. Okay, so it is active because writing is going on. So it is a process. Now, on which you are writing, that matter. You are writing on a letter pad, or you are writing in a diary, or you are writing somewhere in a on a letter. Then that letter is called a file. Got it now? The difference between the process and the file. Process means what is doing, what you are doing, and file means whatever you are doing, its information where you are keeping it. So file having a place and the process having a life. So when you are completing writing a letter, then the process is terminated. So the process has a states, as we already discussed, that the process when it is newly arise means some thinkings are there arise in your mind, that you are planning something. So it is, we call it as a new process. When your brain is ready to do that task, it is a ready state. When your brain, we call it as a CPU, execute the process, we call that it is in a running state. After executing the process, when your process is waiting for something, then it is in a waiting state. And after completing all these tasks, it will at later on terminate. So got it now? The process and the file. Now we'll see the types of the process in operating system. Now there are two types of process. Process means always keep in mind that it is an active entity. Okay. So two types of process. First is a independent process. There is not a single process in operating system. There are so many processes. We call it as a multi-processing operating system. Okay. So first is independent process. Independent process means they do not depend on each other. They don't share anything to each other. They are not helping each other. So their execution do not depend on each other. Means if the one process is executing, it don't means that another process execution will depend on the first process. Okay, so it is an independent process. So their execution is not affected by each other. Okay, got it now? Now this another type is, the other type is a cooperating process. The name itself tell you what is a cooperating process. Cooperate means help. So the if two or more than two process are helping each other, they are sharing their information, they are sharing their code, they are sharing their data, address, whatever it may be, we call that they are cooperating each other. So that is the process which cooperate each other is called it as a cooperating process. Okay. Now in case of cooperating process, they can affect or be affected by the execution of the another process because they are sharing. Got it now? So two type of process. First is independent process and second is a cooperating process. Now you can guess that you are means, I think that you can easily answer me that which process are more beneficial in operating system? Of course, they are the cooperating process, because if the two processes are sharing one address space, it is more beneficial. Consider that the two brothers are there and they are sharing one house, one kitchen, like that. So it means they are utilizing the resources in an efficient and effective way. But consider the reverse case, that the two brothers are the two processes are independent. They are living in separate house. Then what? Their resources will be increased, means they have that one brother having his own house, the another brother having his own house, the kitchen and everything, the money and everything. So the resources, what they need, the more resources. So the cooperating concept is more important in operating system. Now, of course, there are various types of advantage of the process cooperation. First is that which I already told you, that this cooperating process share the information sharing. That is, if there is 100 kilobyte of information, then two or more than two, three, four, five process can share that 100 kilobyte of information. But if they are the independent process, they need 100 kilobyte, 100 kilobyte, 100 kilobyte, like that. So the first advantage is the information sharing. Then the second one is that if the processes are cooperating each other, the work may be divided. That 50% work will be done by one process, the 50% work will be done by the second process if it is divided in two processes. If it is divided in four processes, then 25%, 25%, 25%, and all the processes are executing in a parallel manner. So the speed will be increased, that is computational speed up. Got it? Third one is a modularity. Modularity means if the complex task is there, big task is there, and if that big task is divided into small tasks among the multiple process, and all these multiple process are cooperating each other, then the big task can be what? It will be simplified by dividing into small modules among the multiple process. So modularity, we call this concept as a modularity. And the next one is a convenience. If the information is shared, then it will be convenient to each process to use that information. That is a convenience is there. Got it? So here we have seen types of the process. First is independent, second one is a cooperating. Of course, the cooperating will be given a higher chance. It is having the advantages: information sharing, computational speed up, simplicity, and the convenience. That is easier. Now, uh, what is the example of this cooperating process? That a simple example of cooperating process is a producer consumer problem. Now, consider that you are typing something from the keyboard. So who is producing? Keyboard is producing. So keyboard will be a producer process. And at the same time, whatever you are typing from the keyboard, it is displayed on the screen or the monitor. So who is consuming? Monitor is consuming. So monitor is called it as a consumer process. So these two processes, they share the common information, due to which what happens? It becomes easier for displaying it. Okay. So producer process produces the information, consumer process consume the information which has been produced by the producer. Now where this producer kept the information? This information is kept in a temporary memory, that is called it as a buffer. Okay. Now what type of buffers are used? There are two types of buffers. One is an unbounded buffer, where there is no practical limit on the size of the buffer. There is no limit. We call it as an unlimited size. It is unbounded buffer. And second one is a bounded buffer. Bounded buffer means this temporary memory, there is certain limit on the size of the buffer. Why there should be a limit? Because once the size of the buffer has been reached, the producer will stop producing the items, and then if it is consumed completely, if it becomes empty, then the producer will start producing the items. Okay, got it now? Now what is meant by the another concept is inter-process communication. How one process communicate with the another process in operating system. So inter-process communication means a mechanism for a process to communicate and synchronize their actions. That is, if two friends are there, how they share the information, that we call it as the inter-process communication. First is just simplicity, that nowadays we are using a WhatsApp. So one friend is sending a message to the another, that is friend. So friends we treat it as a process. So message system. So process communicate with each other without resorting to shared variables. They are not using any shared variables that a sender will send and then that variable content will be sent to the sender. Not like that. Message system is there. Then IPC, that is inter-process communication facility, provide the two operation. What is that? Of course, sending and receiving. Okay. So send message, message size fixed or variable. You can send the message which is of fixed size, or you can send the message of a variable size. And on the receiver side, the receive function is there. So it provides the two operations, sending and receiving the message. Got it now? Now, if we say that if P and Q, they want to communicate each other, what they need? It's very simple question. If one friend want to communicate with another friend, your mother wants to communicate you, or the two persons in general want to communicate. The persons we in operating system we call it as a process. If they want to communicate, they need to establish a communication link between them. That is what is a path or the link on which the message will be sent. They wish to, sorry, they have to establish a communication link between them. Then after establishing a link, because you know, if you are to call your friend, what you do, you dial a number, means you are establishing a link, and then you talk. Once the call is okay, you go on talking here. That is the exchange of the message via the send or the receive. Okay, so what we need, first, if the two process wants to communicate, then they have to establish the communication link. Once it is established, then they will exchange the information via the operation send and the receive. Now, how this communication link is implemented? Okay, so this link may be a physical link, that is, it may be a shared memory, or it may be a bus on which the information will be passed, or it may be a logical. Logical means certain socket you are using, or certain type of logical entity, just like that. See, in a WhatsApp, you are using the logical memory. Okay, so it is a logical. Then how these links are established? There are certain questions arise in mind regarding the interprocess communication. That is how these links are established. And the answer I will provide in a next slide. Can a link be associated with more than two processes? That is, if the link is established, can one process communicate with the two process, three process like this? Then how many links can be there between every pair of communication process? Means if there is only one link, if there are two links or three links, how many links are there? What is the capacity of the link? Means how much message or how much information you can send at a time on a that is the link, that is the capacity of the link. Is the size of the message that the link can accommodate is fixed or that is variable? Then is a link unidirectional or bidirectional? Means if the sender and receiver is there, can the sender send a message to the receiver and receiver can also send the message to the sender? Okay, so it is a unidirectional or bidirectional. So these are certain questions which arise in mind, and the answers are given in the next slide. First is, how are links established? Our question. So here, before that, we'll see the direct communication. Process must name each other explicitly. Okay, send and receive. I told you that here it is a direct communication. Send, P is a sender and P is sending the message. Okay, and on the receiver side, Q is a receiver, and whatever the message which has been sent by the sender message, it will be received to the Q. Okay. Now the properties of the communication, just see that in a previous slide how the links are established. Here is the answer. The links are established automatically. What was the second question? Can a link be associated with more than two processes? A link is associated with exactly one pair of communicating process. Means one sender and one receiver. Okay. Then third question was that between each pair there exists exactly one link. The link may be a unidirectional but is usually a bidirectional. Means you know that if you are calling your friend, you go on talking and he is a listener. No, sometimes he also talk or she also talks. The another person also talks. So the communication is not in a unidirectional; it is a bidirectional. Okay. So direct communication we have seen that P sender send the message and receiver what Q. So directly message is sent from P to Q. Now in case of indirect communication, see, these messages are not directly given to the receiver. These messages are kept in a mailbox. Just like that, if you want to drop a letter or you have to send a letter to your friend, then you drop it in a drop box, post office. You go to the post office or you go to the post box and you drop it. From where it will be taken to the another post office, it will be sorted and it will be given to your friend, that is the receiver. Now in this case, you are not handing over or you are not giving a letter directly to your friend. You are not sending a message directly to your friend, that another person, one two persons are there, this person is not giving directly message to this person. There is certain what we call it as a mailbox in between them. Just like that, if you have to send a message or send drop a mail to your friend, then you compose the mail by using some Gmail or Reddit mail account. It will be dropped, and then that person on the receiver side open the Gmail, is whatever the account may be. Okay, and then he or she can open the mailbox and read the message. So here the messages are not going in a direct manner. There is an indirect communication. Okay, and here the messages are directed and received from the mailbox. We also call it as a port. What is the difference between the direct and indirect communication? In direct communication, directly the message is sent by the sender and that message is given to the receiver. But here the messages are not directly sent, they are stored in a mailbox, and through mailbox the another person will be read it. Now each mailbox has a unique ID identifier. Process can communicate only if they share a mailbox, otherwise not possible. Properties of the communication link here. The link established only if the process share a common mailbox. If the two processes are ready, here there is a restriction that two unknown people cannot share the message. They must be known to each other. And how they will be known to each other? If they share a common mailbox. Okay, and that mailbox unique ID is known to the sender as well as a receiver. The sender also have the unique ID and the receiver also having the unique ID. Then only they can share the mailbox. Okay, a link may be associated with many process. Means if this unique ID of the mailbox is shared among the multiple process, then they can what they can also share the mailbox message. Each pair of process may share several communication link. So there is not a limitation that you can drop a mail to the single person. You can drop a mail to the multiple person. So several communication link is there. Link may be a unidirectional or bidirectional. So it is not always the case that you are dropping a mail to your friend. You also get the reply. So it is a bidirectional. So which are the operations? Operation is here in indirect communication. Just like in a direct communication, there was not a concept of a mailbox. Directly, a sender can send the message to the receiver. But here, the sender has to drop the mail in a mailbox, and that mailbox having a unique ID which is shared by the receiver. And then, if the receiver knows the unique ID, then he can open the mailbox and he or she can read it. So what you have to do? You must have to create a new mailbox. If you are not having a Gmail account or the Reddit mail account, you can't drop a mail. So you have to create your unique ID, that is create a new mailbox. Then send and receive the mail messages through the mailbox. And then once the work has been over, or then you can destroy the mailbox if it is necessary. So which are the primitives? Primitive means primary operations. So primary operation is of course what? The send and the receive. Now what is the difference between the direct and indirect communication here? Here send. A is what? Name of the sender. What is he or she is doing? The person is sending the message. But where this message will go? It will not directly go to the receiver. It will send a message to the mailbox A. So here A is nothing but it is not a sender, it is the name of the mailbox. Got it? Got it? A is the name of the mailbox. And from this mailbox A, the receiver will receive the message. Now what is see the difference between the direct communication and indirect communication? Here in case of direct communication, here it was the name of the process. Send P. P is a sender. What the person is sending? Process is sending message, and here it was a receiver Q. So P and Q were the sender and the receiver. But here in indirect communication, A is not a sender, A is the mailbox where the sender send the message, and A here the mailbox from where the receiver receives the message. That is why the communication is through the mailbox A. So it is the indirect communication. Okay. Now it is the mailbox sharing. So P1, P2 and P3 share the mailbox A, and P1 sends and P2 and P3 receive the message. Who get the message here? Both P2 and what is the solution? So here allow the link to be associated with at most two processes. Allow only one process at a time to execute and receive the operation, because what happens if there are multiple processes are there which are associated with the mailbox, then there may be a chances that multiple process will send the message to the mailbox simultaneously. So there must be some type of restriction that who will send the message. Only one process will send a message at one time. So allow only one process at a time to execute a receive operation or the sending operation. Otherwise the mailbox will be destroyed. Okay. Allow the system to select arbitrarily the receiver. The sender is notified who the receiver was. Okay. So this is about the indirect communication. Now what is meant by the synchronization? What happens in case of synchronization? Synchronization means what? If two or more processes arrive on the same time. That is C. Consider the example of a railway platform. If a situation occurs that two trains are arriving on the same track, what happens? There will definitely a probability of accident. Same here. A single mailbox is there. Then there must be a synchronization that which process will accept it. It should be accessed only by one process. Okay. So message passing may be either blocking or non-blocking. So either block it or not block it. So blocking is considered as a synchronous because once the mailbox is used, it is blocked. When it is blocked, it means the another process will see that the mailbox is blocked, so they will not send the messages. So it is synchronous. And non-blocking means asynchronous. So generally the synchronization is considered, that is, once the mailbox is being used by one process, then it is blocked so that it will not be means accessed by the shared by the another one. Send and receive primitives, primary operations may be either blocking or non-blocking. Now the another is a buffering. Buffering means what? What do we call it as a buffering means a temporary memory where these messages are kept. So we call it as if you are typing a multiple messages, you are sending the multiple messages, then there must be some that is called it as an intermediate area where these messages are kept. Otherwise, they will be bombarded on the receiver side in a random order. That is second sentence first, then first sentence second, like that. So there will be a meaningless information received at the receiver side. So there must be a queue of the message attached to the link implemented in one of the three ways. First is that queue means first message, then second message, then third message. In the same order, queue means first in, first out. First message sent, then first message received. Second message sent, second message received. Third message sent, third message received. If it is not considered the situation that there is not a queue, what will happen? Second message will be given first, then first message, and then so randomly the message will be arrived on the receiver side. So that is a meaningless communication. Okay. So zero capacity, zero message means the sender must wait for the receiver. There is not any capacity means the sender will send, receiver will get. The sender will send, the receiver will get. Bounded capacity means in this queue the sender can send n messages. So n is a finite length of n messages. So sender must wait if the link is full. It means if the capacity of the link is the capacity of the queue is 5, up to 5 messages, then the sender will go on sending first, second, third, fourth, fifth, like that. Once it is full, the sender will stop. Okay. And then unbounded capacity, there is not any limit on the, that is the sending side, means sender will go on sending the messages. The sender sending process will never wait, because just like that in WhatsApp you go on typing and sending. Is there any WhatsApp that is we get the message from the WhatsApp that no, it is limited now, your queue is full, you can't send any message? No. So it is an infinite, like sender never waits. Now the client server communication in operating system, there is a concept of client and a server. Client server gives the services and client uses the services. Okay. So how the communication between the client and server? So it is through the socket or the remote procedure calls or the remote method invocation, which is used in a Java. Now socket means it is actually it's not, I think it's not the part of your syllabus, but you should have that idea that how the communication is done in a client server. So in client server, three type of communications are there. One is a socket, second one is RPC, remote procedure calls, third one is a remote method invocation, which is generally used in a Java. So socket is defined as the endpoint of the communication. It is a concatenation of the IP address and the port. So socket means just consider that it is one box which is having the IP address and the port. So the sender will or the client will access the socket by using the IP address, and the server will also access the socket by using the IP address. Okay. So the socket is C. This is a port number means the actual machine. Okay, so this refers to the port 1625 on the host, and this is the host side, host number. Communication consists between the pair of the socket, that is sender having the sending socket and the receiver having the receiver socket. Just like we say, this is host X client and this is the web server. Suppose you are the user, you are sitting on this machine. This machine is having the IP address 146.86.5.20 and you are opening Gmail account. You said that you are just type www.gmail.com. Then it will go to the web server of, we call it as a Gmail server. And Gmail server having the IP address 161.25.19.8. So this is socket which is corresponding to the Gmail server, and this is the socket which is corresponding to the user, that is you, client. And which application you are opening? You are opening a browser. So 1625 is a port. Okay, and this is a local host here. Got it now? This is a socket communication. Then the remote procedure call means it abstracts the procedure calls between the process on the network system. Whenever the processes are working in a network system or in a network, then in that case, and they are remotely situated, then we have to use the remote procedure calls. And in this remote procedure calls, the concept of stub is used. Stub is nothing but it is a client side proxy for the actual procedure on the server. That is just a mirror has been, or the proxy or the duplicate has been created. So the client will not directly communicate with the server. The client will communicate with the proxy, and the proxy is called it as a stub. Okay, so the client side stub locates the server and marshals the parameter. Okay, so this stub is nothing but it is on a client side proxy machine. There is also the server side stub. The client cannot directly communicate with the server by from the security point of view. So what? There is a stub. Stub is nothing but it's a virtual. The server side stub received the message, unpack it. Pack means it was in a compact manner which has been sent by the client. Marshal the parameter, discovers the parameters and performs the procedure on the server. Okay, just like C. And the remote method invocation which is performed in a Java. This is a Java program, and if you are using a remote procedures, remote method invocation, then it will access the remote object which is stored on a Java virtual machine. Okay, so remote method invocation RMI is a Java mechanism similar to the RPC. Simply the difference is that it is implemented in what? Java. So RMI allows a Java program on one machine to invoke the method on the remote object. Okay, so this is just consider marshalling parameters means discovering the parameter. Server, some method has been called by passing the parameter a comma b. It goes to the client stub. We call it as a proxy. Then it will go to the this invoke the AB method, AB some method, it goes to skeleton. This skeleton is a remote object. Then it will execute it and it will return the skeleton. It may be yes or no. Boolean return value means it is yes or no. It is given to the proxy machine and it is returned to the client here. So this is all about the interprocess the types of the process, the independent process, cooperating process. The cooperating process is the best option. So how this cooperating process communicate with each other, and then we have seen the this is just the three methods of communication here. Okay, thank you.